Okay, let's unpack this. Most of us just assume tariffs mean higher prices for us. Seems obvious, right?
Right. That's the standard thinking.
But what if some new economic research is telling a really different story
Mhm.
about who actually pays?
Exactly. That's what we're diving into today, this idea of asymmetric tariff incidence theory.
Asymmetric tariff incidence theory. Okay, so what's the core idea? You mentioned something fascinating earlier.
Yeah, what's really interesting is that with the recent U.S. tariffs, it seems foreign manufacturers are absorbing a lot of the cost, not passing it all to you.
Absorbing it. How? Why would they do that?
Well, it boils down to two main things, two key dynamics happening right now in global trade.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first dynamic?
The first is about us, the consumers. Demand for durable goods, think cars, washing machines, refrigerators. It's pretty inelastic.
Inelastic, meaning price changes don't drastically change if we buy them or not.
Pretty much. You generally only need one fridge, right? A price drop won't make you buy two.
No, definitely not.
And if the price jumps up because of a tariff, you might just, delay the purchase. Hold off. It's not like buying coffee.
Okay, so our buying habits for big items are kind of sticky. That's
Yeah.
one side. What about the producers? The foreign factories?
Right, that's the second dynamic. And it's crucial. These factories often have enormous, inflexible production setups.
Billions invested. Huge assembly lines.
Exactly. Think about a giant car plant. Shutting down half a line because of a tariff, it's incredibly costly. You lose efficiency, skilled workers, maybe even market position long term.
So faced with a tariff, just stopping isn't really an option, or a very painful one anyway.
It's a massive disruption. So often the more viable path for them is to cut their profit margins. They essentially eat the tariff cost.
They eat the cost to keep the production lines humming and maintain their share of the market.
Precisely, to avoid those huge fixed costs of idle factories and stay competitive.
Wow. Okay, that really does flip the conventional thinking. So if they're absorbing the cost, how much of the tariff actually makes it to prices here in the U.S.?
The estimates suggest maybe only about 20 to 30%. The rest is absorbed before it even gets here.
And there's data backing this up.
Oh, absolutely. Look at China's factory gate prices, the price leaving the factory. They fell 3.6% year on year in June 2025.
Fell. During time of tariffs.
Yes, and it was their 33rd straight month of deflation. It's a pretty clear signal producers are cutting their prices to offset the tariffs.
So they can keep selling into the U.S. market.
Right, and we even hear U.S. companies like GM and Nike reporting they've absorbed a lot of these input cost increases rather than passing everything on.
Interesting. So, okay, foreign producers absorb most of the cost. What's the net effect on the overall U.S. economy then? You said it was a boost.
Yeah, kind of surprisingly, it has been. When imports effectively become cheaper or don't rise as much as expected, and our exports hold steady, it narrows the trade deficit.
And a smaller trade deficit adds to GDP.
Correct. In the second quarter of 2025, this effect added almost 5 percentage points. Well, plus 4.99, a record amount, to GDP growth.
Wow, that's significant. And the government's collecting the tariff revenue, too.
That's the other side. A big fiscal windfall, over $113 billion collected through July 2025.
Okay, so GDP boost, extra revenue. But it hasn't sparked major inflation, you said.
Seems not. U.S. producer prices actually eased a bit in June, up only 2.3%, the slowest since late 2024. The inflation impact seems muted, at least for now.
So where's the pressure point then, if not consumer prices?
It shifts more towards the labor market, potentially. Tariffs are still a kind of tax on economic activity, right?
Okay. How so?
Well, for firms that rely on imports or compete against them, even if consumer prices aren't soaring, the tariff still affects their costs or competitive landscape.
So they might cut back elsewhere.
Possibly. To protect their own margins, they might slow down hiring or perhaps postpone investment plans, rather than risk losing customers by raising prices significantly.
Which brings us to the Federal Reserve. This must complicate their job.
It certainly presents an interesting picture. You have unemployment recently ticking up a bit to 4.2%, but inflation is relatively subdued.
So their usual balancing act gets trickier.
Exactly. If the main economic risk from tariffs isn't runaway inflation, but rather a potential drag on employment or growth, well, that could shift their focus.
They might prioritize supporting the labor market more, perhaps, over aggressively fighting inflation that isn't really materializing from the tariffs.
It suggests a potential shift, yes. The focus might lean more towards employment and growth impacts when considering trade policy effects.
So the big takeaway seems to be Next time tariffs are in the news, remember it's not always straightforward. There's this whole hidden dynamic.
It's often the foreign producer, not necessarily you, bearing a large chunk of the direct cost because of these market structures and demand realities.
Definitely challenges the simple narrative.
It really does. And it leaves us with a big question, I think. How do policymakers navigate this, balancing, trade goals with these evolving pressures on jobs and the economy? Something to chew on.